Shannon Robnett with the Robnett Real Estate Rundown. I wanted to chat with you guys this morning about what's going on out there in the real estate market and how can we bring that home and how can we apply that in our neighborhoods. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today is just what we see going on a global level. And for those of you that are listening to this right now, we're in the middle of what appears to be a pandemic of proportions unknown. And I think it's very important to talk about the unknown portion of it, but talk about it in a way that we can all relate to. So the place that I want to come from this morning is twofold. One, I do know right now that I am not an expert. I do know right now that I do have places to get my information from that come from experts. And I do know right now that Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn are not the places to be getting that information. There are plenty of other places that I would recommend, and they are also not the mainstream news media. Currently, what we have is we have a situation where we have an overblown response by the public to something that may or may not come to fruition. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be prepared. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go get some basic supplies to take a week or two or three and set those aside. What I'm saying is that going into the supermarket and cleaning out the shelves is causing more of a problem than it's solving, because we do have people in our communities who need those supplies that aren't able to get them because someone else took 10 cartons of toilet paper or took 15 bottles of hand sanitizer. And so what I would ask everyone to do is to look around at their community and to be part of that community and to ask yourself, what can I do in my community right now to spread hope, to spread calmness. I don't know if calmness is even a word, but tranquility, so that you're not becoming part of the problem. Too often we repost things, we forward things, we share things that we haven't verified. And I really want people to take a minute and look at it from the perspective that that this is causing a problem because things that are not verified are getting out there. Much as like you would respond to a real estate deal, you want to verify everything before you call it the truth, before you hang your hat on it. I would ask you to do the same with what you're putting out there on your Facebook pages, your Instagram, that you would be making the community a better place, a more informed place with truth rather than opinion. I've watched a lot of people run all over social media today with opinions, with thoughts that are having a very negative impact on society as a whole. And I would ask you to look at what your actions are doing, and are you feeding the frenzy or are you trying to maintain the calm? Because you're only able to do one of the two. And I would ask that everybody look at it from that standpoint of what can you do in our community right now to help things, to make things better. I see a lot of things on Facebook right now where people are offering toilet paper or meals to people that can't get out, people that already have compromised immune systems that are self-quarantining on purpose to stay healthy, and I applaud them for that. But reach out to people and see what you can do to be part of the solution rather than just part of the panic, part of the general public's clawing at everything they can get their hands on for themselves without thinking about who they might be able to help or what other part of the community they could reach out into. So I also wanted to deal with a question that I've been asked probably 40 times today and all week long is, what does this mean for real estate? And we've watched the stock market crater. We've watched the stock market have one of the choppiest weeks in history since I believe the mid-30s is what I saw. But it's definitely been up, down, and sideways. And one of the things that I think everybody that that is well vested in real estate can agree on is that those of us that are in real estate for the cash flow, for the appreciation, we're not going to see the huge market swings because what we've invested in is really based on a supply and demand that is much more close to home. So while you may see Procter and Gamble stocks going through the roof right now, those of you that own stocks in Royal Caribbean or Princess Cruise Lines are watching those go through the floor. Gas prices are all over. We're not seeing that happen with real estate. We're seeing people come out thinking that all of a sudden there's a bargain in 3 days, which sadly they're going to be a bit disappointed because those values aren't going to materialize in a market that quickly. The real estate market, even if you look back at the Great Recession of 2008, the real estate market didn't react overnight like the stock market does. Warren Buffett says it very well, and I can't quote him right off the top of my head, but the stock market is more of a popularity contest and a voting machine at oftentimes. And right now, public sentiment is all over the map. So we've got those that think we're headed into an apocalypse, and we've got those that think that now is the time to buy. We've got those that are trying to buy on the dip and keep missing it because it keeps going lower. And so when we look at that, all of the things that we're seeing in the market right now are telling us all of the reasons why our real estate purchases were phenomenal. Because that real estate is not reacting the same way. You don't have, if you own single family that you rent out, or even some multifamily, you don't have your tenant calling you today trying to renegotiate the rent for tomorrow. That's not happening, but you do have people selling stocks that they bought last month thinking it was going to continue to appreciate, and it's gone the other direction, and now they're selling to remove their position. So one of the best things about the real estate market is becoming very, very transparent right now in the economy that we have and in what you see for demand on assets that are constant, assets that have stability and longevity, that aren't fluctuating madly. In fact, I would dare say that we're seeing massive amounts of cash leave the market because they've seen the appreciation. They've realized that the upside potential that they have recognized since the bottom of the market in 11 and 12 is now all but evaporated, and the risk that is there in the market continuing at the rate and velocity that it has run into some serious resistance. And people are realizing that commodities or stocks, even gold and silver this week a bit have defied the safe haven that they have been, and we've seen gold lose value. We've seen the things that people have always said is where you hedge your bet, but stay in the market. We've seen those take a hit. We've seen a lot of things happen, but I've talked to friends of mine in the market that are appraisers, that are realtors, and while they have seen a bit of a slowdown because everybody's trying to see what business they're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks, and whether or not their business partners are going to be joining them, or if they're going to be coming to you from a Zoom meeting or a Skype or just a phone call. But at the end of the day, the smart money that stayed in real estate isn't experiencing problems, isn't experiencing fluctuations. And so while that will come out later on down the road when we've seen if this turns into more than it is currently, if it turns into more than a scare, if it turns into more than H1N1 was several years ago, where even in the United States, 68 million people were infected with H1N1. There's only 12,000 related deaths related to that, much less than the common cold. But if we see this come into something more, and this does become problematic and it does continue to shut down the world's economies, there's no way that it cannot have an effect on cash flow from the household up to the landlord. But the reality is it's a short thing and it's a temporary thing that will slowly feel its way into the market, and not everyone that is your tenant will have that same difficulty at the same time, or some will have the difficulty right away, some won't have the difficulty at all. And so that's where I believe some of the strengths, some of the additional strengths are with the market. And as we're talking about this in what we're doing, how we're conducting this podcast, I think it's incredibly relevant, the timing that this economy that we're seeing, the world's changed in 2 weeks, but real estate really hasn't. The demand for real estate hasn't gone away in 2 weeks. The demand for rentals hasn't evaporated in 2 weeks. And those of you that have people that are in your properties, they're not leaving your property because of what's happened this last 2 weeks. So I just wanted to kind of reach out, you guys, and bring you that message that real estate is still a great place to be. Transactions are still going to go forward. Things are still going to happen. We may see a slight ease in the demand just because there will be a lull. Product is still coming online at the same rate, but there's going to be a lull in buyers purchasing. So we may see a little bit of change in the inventory. We may see a little bit of loosening in the pricing. We've definitely seen some rate changes with what the administration has done for lowering, or the Fed has done for lowering interest rates, that adds a little bit more buying power, cheapens up the payment. So I think overall, I think we're going to see us come through this just fine. But I want to encourage you to remember yourselves. Remember the humanity that you are. Remember your fellow man. Remember the person that's around you that may need what you could leave instead of participating in the panic. And if you guys need anything, let me know. I've got some extra. But other than that, I'll leave you guys with this. The thought is this: don't change your strategy for your long term, for your future, over what's happening moment by moment, minute by minute in the day. If that's the case, and if you are forced to change your strategy because of what happened this week, maybe you're not thinking long term enough. Maybe you need to put your goals out there and your expectations of yourself out there a little farther, so that you can make a plan for 2020 that's going to take you from January to December without having to make all these intermittent changes because we're short a little bit on our paycheck here, or we thought this was going to happen, or we anticipated this. Make a plan that's going to allow you to stay steady, stay constant, get from point A to point B without having to make a bunch of adjustments. And if that's what you're doing, it's okay to review your goals for the year and to broaden those out and to dial those in to be a little bit more realistic. But I would encourage everyone to not forget your fellow man, not forget your neighbor, not forget those around you. So have a great week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll be talking with you soon. I'm going to bring you some great guests this first part of next week. So we look forward to talking with you then.